Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about the recontextualization of Ben Rigg's book, "Slaying the Dragon" by Dave Thaumavore, and how it really helps us to understand Ben Rigg's book, the importance of it. It is an important book, but it brings the analysis. It brings the it brings an invitation to analyze Ben Rigg's book correctly, because Ben Rigg certainly did not analyze the data that he put in his book correctly. He did a terrible job understanding the data that he collected. In fact, I don't think he understood the data he collected at all, right? But Ben Rigg's book, Slaying the Dragon, is extremely important. So what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about the recontextualization of Ben Rigg's book, Slaying the Dragon, in context to Lorraine Williams. All right, so first of all, let's talk about Ben Riggs, because this is really important to understand. So Ben Riggs in 2023 releases this book, Slaying the Dragon. Very few people read it. And very few people read historical books today at all, right? Like, it's, books are a terrible medium for releasing information. They serve for a long time. Now, like, if you're not giving people information every day, what's the point of you, right? Like, the author is an antiquated. Authors are antiquated. Period. Right? Like, today, commentation and being able to say something urgent at the moment something is happening, that's far more valuable than spending 5 years writing a book nobody's going to read, right? So Ben Riggs is pretty irrelevant until his work was recontextualized by Dave Thaumavore, okay? And you can see the link for this below, for Dave Thaumavore's video. So Dave Thaumavore comes in, and I'm starting to think that we might not get to Lorraine Williams today. We might just re-talk about the... Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. Let me recorrect. I can tell that this video is going to go already. So basically, this is just talking about the recontextualization of Ben Rigg Slaying the Dragon, and the new invitation to analyze the very valuable data that Ben Riggs worked hard to get, right? And so I want to say thank you to Ben Riggs for what he should be thankful for, and I want to take Ben Riggs off the board for what he should never be listened to, right? So first of all, Ben Riggs almost took himself off the board this week he just recently was like, hey, everybody, I'm not a Dungeons & Dragons historian. I'm just a grumpy old grognard, right? Like, as he was like, hey, everybody, the golden age of tabletop role-playing games is over. And which was, and the whole industry just dogpiled on him on Twitter, right? And it was pretty bad, and it was like, oh, we thought you were like a serious scholar. You're just a grumpy old grognard. Old man shouts at cloud, whatever. It was bad. Teos Abadia said it was sloppy, uninformed, and just went in on him. And if Teos Abadia, one of the kindest, most patient dudes in all of tabletop role-playing game, lays into you for what you saying, you best listen. It was bad. Right. So, all right. So Ben Riggs brings out and so what do we owe Ben Riggs for? So Slaying of the Dragon, Ben Riggs did two things right with the Slaying of the Dragon, and also the Slaying of the Dragon is the history of Dungeons and Dragons. But he kept talking about TSR, and I want to get, let me stay focused here. Slaying of the Dragon did two things right and one thing wrong. The focus was good. Right, we should be looking very closely at the history of Dungeons and Dragons, specifically to understand its present and its future, right? All right, and to make its present and its future better, right? So the focus was 100% correct. He did a good job of keeping a hard focus on the history of Dungeons and Dragons, right? He was a little off there, and so he kept talking about TSR, and I can tell you, if you read Ben Rigg's book, you definitely get the idea that he thought TSR mattered. TSR never mattered, okay? All that matters is Dungeons & Dragons. Now, and there never would be a reason to write the history of TSR. And the reason why is, if you're given a gift at Christmas, looking at TSR and not looking at Dungeons & Dragons is like being given a Christmas gift and then unwrapping the packaging, unwrapping the gift, and then putting the gift on the floor and then just staring at the wrapping, TSR was people were like, oh, TSR went out of business. Nobody cares if TSR went out of business. TSR never mattered, right? All that mattered, the gift inside was what mattered. The TSR was shiny, right? And it was like gift wrapping. It was colorful, right? Fun for a minute, but it's not the important thing. D&D is the important thing. And Ben Riggs didn't get that. He talked a lot about TSR, not understanding it all the time. There was nothing of value in TSR but Dungeons and Dragons. So he should have just talked about Dungeons and Dragons and not TSR. So I think but overall, this focus was needed to look at Dungeons and Dragons history, and he tangentially did that. So he kept the focus right. That was done correctly. Okay. Then what was the other thing? He worked real hard to get data, and he got data. He got these pieces of paper that was essentially smuggled out of TSR by every disgruntled employee. And then he talked to them, and they went down in their basements, and they got the papers, and he went over every one of them. And that was important for a few reasons. The people who were bringing that material out of, they shared two attributes with Ben Riggs, and because they shared those two attributes, it's like the most important two attributes in the world for many people. And then those people who got that data out of TSR, they all had the same two attributes, and those same two attributes were shared by Ben Riggs, and this was a very big deal, right? Because this is a very big deal. And the reason why was because the reason why that was important was they trusted Ben Riggs, and they handed all this data over him. So Ben Riggs was really good at getting data. Now here's the part that gets weird. So Ben Riggs was good at keeping the focus on Dungeons and Dragons history, and he was good at getting the data to give us more information about Dungeons and Dragons history. Here's the part where it went wrong. Every analysis Ben Riggs made about the data he collected was wrong. So Ben Riggs was very good at keeping the focus right, and very good at getting the data, because he was trusted by these people who had the same two attributes he had, right? And that's why they were willing to give him the data. And that was really important, because if I tried to get that data, I wouldn't. I think if almost anybody else tried to get the data, they wouldn't. But Ben Riggs had those precious two attributes that's so important, right? And so they trusted him, right? And he got the data. The problem is all of his analysis was wrong. Why are we talking about this today? Dave Thaumavore goes in and sifts the 300, 400, 500 pages of Ben Riggs' book to get the chaff out of the way and just get the wheat, right? And now there's been an invitation to analyze the data that Ben Riggs, because Ben Riggs kept the focus on D&D history, collected the data, presented the data in his book, and every analytical point he made was shockingly wrong. And I think that's for many reasons, but I do want to say thank you to Ben Riggs for keeping the focus on D&D history. Thank you to Ben Riggs for getting the data, which I think anybody else would have really struggled to get this extra data. And I want to say all of Ben Riggs' analysis is 100% wrong. 100% of his analysis is 100% wrong, in my humble opinion. But that doesn't mean Ben Riggs failed. Remember, I'm Scott Garibay. I love failure, right? Like, failure is incredibly important. Failure is not, oh, you suck. Failure is, oh, you screened the black diamond and you fell off a cliff, right? It's bold, right? So he got it wrong because of these personal aspects in himself. But he got that last part wrong. But his book is very important. Dave Thaumavore comes in and in 2024 says, hey, all of the analysis, and Dave Thaumavore invites people to look at the analysis. Once I looked at the analysis that Ben Riggs did, I'm like, oh, this is all wrong, right? But there's incredible value in this book. So I did want to talk about that. And this is a ramp up video. I'm getting to something that I learned from Ben Riggs' data from correct analysis. And so I wanted to thank you for your patience. Thank you for letting me clarify the value and the devalue in what is valuable and what is not valuable in slaying the dragon. And I'm going to be talking with you about this in more depth. Thank you for your patience. Every single word you just heard was my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.